Hi everyone, so let's talk about my top 5 easy care houseplants for beginners. So we'll just start from left to right here. Each of these plants I chose because they're very easy to care for, they're pretty forgiving, and they're readily accessible as well. You shouldn't really have a difficult time finding any of these plants, either at your big box store or at a local nursery or something like that. So over on my left here, I have a spathiphyllum, also known as a peace lily. This is a variegated version. However, you can find non-variegated, just solid green foliage ones very easily. Lots of box stores have them. They have these really pretty white flowers. These guys are very, very easy to care for. No direct sunlight for them. I would say bright indirect light would be ideal. You want to have them in a decently draining mixture. And these guys are super thirsty as well. I do have a more in-depth care guide on how to care for this spathiphyllum. If you'd like to watch that, I'll link it below. Next, we also have this devil's ivy or the golden pothos. This is also a super easy to care for houseplant. Very, very accessible as well. Probably one of the most popular houseplants out there for a good reason. I also have a more in-depth care guide on this plant as well. If any of you guys are interested in watching that, that will also be linked below. These guys are very easy to propagate as well. If you want to take one plant and make it into many, that's very possible. Bright indirect light to maybe moderate sunlight exposure is good for these guys. They are low light tolerant as well. If you want to put them in a lower light condition, they won't suffer too much. A decent amount of humidity and not overwatering these guys is going to be pretty crucial also. So that is your golden pothos. Next on my list of easy to care for houseplants are sansevierias. This is a Sayuri Sansevieria, S-A-Y-U-R-I. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly or not. These are one of the harder Sansevierias to find. You may be able to find a Sansevieria that looks a little bit more like this. You can also, tons of different varieties, but they're also known as snake plants or mother-in-law tongue. These guys are super easy to care for. They are low light tolerant. They can also go up to more of like a medium to bright indirect light as well. Really, these guys don't require much maintenance at all. You just want to make sure that you're not overwatering them at all. They are more of a succulent type foliage, meaning they have very thick foliage, very thick leaves, so they have a lot of water storage inside of them. Do have a care guide for Sansevierias as well if you want to watch that and get more in-depth info. But very, very easy to care for houseplant. Don't need a ton of light. Don't have to water it frequently. Very, very forgiving. Definitely recommend some Sansevieria. So next, this is a cast iron plant. This is the Milky Way variety, if I'm not mistaken. This is one of the easiest houseplants I've ever owned. Extremely low maintenance. It has pushed out a ton of new growth this last growing season. I can see that it's starting to push out some new growth here at the bottom again this season, which is super exciting. I have this guy in a medium to bright indirect light scenario. I wouldn't expose them to much direct sunlight at all. Yeah, super easy to care for. Let them dry out pretty well in between waterings. They're relatively drought tolerant and super, super, super easy to care for. Actually, very low maintenance. And then last but not least on my list of easy to care for houseplants is the spider plant over here. I will be making a video on spider plant care eventually. However, these guys prefer bright indirect light. So, if you have a south-facing window or even an east-facing window that doesn't get a ton of direct sunlight whatsoever, a spider plant is a good option for you. They push out babies very, very frequently, and they have these little tiny white flowers during the growing season as well. Super easy to propagate because they just push out babies, super easy to care for. You just want to make sure that you're letting them dry out pretty well in between waterings. Don't let them go, totally bone dry though. They will turn like a lighter green, more of like a mint color versus this like foliage green, kind of forest green color. That will be your indication that it's getting a little parched and that you need to give it a water. So that is the sign for the spider plant on when to water. All in all, guys, these are all very easy to find houseplants, super easy to care for. If you're a beginner and you want to get into houseplants, I would start somewhere with one of these plants, especially like a Sansevieria or a golden pothos. I think my first plant was actually a golden pothos, and we have taken off since there. So let me know if you guys have any questions. As I mentioned, I do have care guides for the Spathiphyllum, the peace lily, the golden pothos, the Sansevieria, and I will definitely be making a video on each of these plants here before too long, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys for watching this video, and thank you guys for the support. I really do appreciate it. And if you wouldn't mind liking and or subscribing, I would really appreciate that as well. The support definitely helps. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions.